Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the commander of the 366 Munitions Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Cameron Ersch, welcome to the memorial service to honor the life of Senior Airman Michael J. Derrick. I am Staff Sergeant Noel Ruiz, and I will be presiding over today's service. If you are able, please stand for the presenting of the colors, the playing of the national anthem by Senior Airman LeBlanc, and remain standing for the invocation.
Color. Hook. Present. Hum. Port. Hum. Step.
Will you please pray with me? Gracious God, we gather today to remember Senior Airman Michael Derrick and to give thanks for a life that, though far too brief, was deeply meaningful. Thank you for his intelligence, his kindness, his humor, and his desire to improve everything entrusted to his care. As we mourn, remind us that life is good, that our days are gifts to be stewarded, and that one person faithfully serving others can leave an imprint far greater than the years they were given. Comfort those who grieve, strengthen those who remain, and help us carry forward Derrick's example with gratitude and purpose. And we pray this in your most precious name. Amen. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to invite the commander of the 366 Munitions Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Cameron Ersch, who will offer some opening remarks remembering the life and service of Senior Airman Derrick.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you all for being here today, Colonel Gunter, Colonel Bright, the entire team, family and friends, distinguished guests, commanders, chiefs, first sergeants, specifically the men and women of the 366 Munitions Squadron. Thank you all for being here today to celebrate the life of Senior Airman Michael Derrick. As a commander, there's no heavier burden and no more difficult duty than standing before your unit to mourn the loss of one of our own. Today, our squadron is incomplete. We're missing a vital piece of our team, a dedicated airman and a true wingman. So we are all grappling with the harsh and unfair reality of this situation. And it is natural to feel a deep sense of anger and injustice. I feel it too. But I believe that Michael, that we all know, would not want us to dwell too long on those feelings. And instead, he would want us to approach this tough situation the same way he handled every challenge he faced, with a positive attitude and at least a story or two, or some off-the-wall question, just to break up the ice and release the tension. So as I struggle to find the words, to say to help heal a broken unit and honor our friend and wingman, I'm going to approach this challenge the same way that Airman Derrick would. Positive attitude, encouraged to give it my best, and possibly a funny story. So I actually just heard about this story today. So many know that Airman Derrick was born in Moscow, Russia. And immediately, us being in the military, we're like, okay, we have questions after that, right? And and it was funny, during his funeral service, one of his previous supervisors had alluded to, first time meeting him and hearing that he was from Moscow, and made the statement, during the funeral about, like, we were like, is he a Russian spy? Like, all those kinds of things. Michael embraced that. And loved the banter back and forth about his heritage. He loved to talk about it. And the funny story is so in preparing for this service, we wanted to get a picture of him and then send out the invites and everything. And the initial invite that PA had shot out, they had grabbed from Sergeant Nguyen, who's a close friend. Her husband is in the PML flight. Had grabbed a picture that she had posted on her Facebook page. Well, the banter about him being from Russia has been going on his entire career. And this picture was an official photo that had been doctored. And it had the American flag, but if you looked closely, there was also a Russian flag that was in this official picture. And that was sent out initially and quickly had to be recalled and fixed. So Michael would have appreciated that and would have loved it. So, he was a very special airman, a very special friend and wingman to all of us. So for me, I have found healing during the situation by hearing the stories that his friends and family have shared over the last couple of weeks. And while helping us process this tragedy, I believe sharing these memories is also the greatest way that all of us can honor Michael, his dedication, his sacrifice and service to our nation, and the deep friendship so many had with him. So when I think about Senior Airman Derrick, I immediately think of his first few days in the unit. He was in processing, and when I met him the first time, I noticed his Dutch parachutist badge that you see in the pictures on his uniform that he wore very proudly. I have several friends who have earned that same badge. They were stationed in Europe, and so we struck up a long conversation about his adventures while being stationed at Ramstein and comparing our stories of living in Europe. And I knew immediately that this airman was not afraid to talk to leadership. Over the next several weeks and months, he proved my initial assumptions correct by routinely taking me up on my open door policy. He would even pop into my office to share ideas, offer recommendations on things that we could improve, or simply update me on his latest adventures. And of course, he really made an impression when he dropped close to a mid-month paycheck on the bidding just to pie me in the face. And many of you got to enjoy that, celebration and time with him. I don't know what I did to drive him to do that, but we raised a lot of money and had a great time at the holiday party. So Michael's mark on the unit didn't stop with fun and games. He was always searching for a way to contribute and to better himself, his section, and the greater Air Force. He was bold enough to ask tough questions to unit and wing leaders, and he was motivated to take advantage of every single opportunity that came his way, hence all of the foreign achievements and ribbons that he wore and earned so proudly. Senior Airman Derrick was an innovator, and he challenged the norms, especially if he knew a way to do something better. If the AFI or guidance didn't get it right, he would let someone know about it. He would try to fix it himself, or he would comply, but be sure to show why it was wrong and not let up until it was improved. The answer of, that is above our pay grade, Derrick, was not acceptable. I know his leadership probably experienced that several times over. I also learned that answers, because I gave him this, like, hey, no, we can't do that, without proper reasoning, just fueled him more. It challenged me to do my homework and also not be resistant to change and the work that it takes to make reasonable change happen. That same drive and tenacity he exhibited throughout the time that I knew him is the same that opened the door for him to be hired for a special assignment with Project ARC and Task Force 99. Seriously, think about this, that a PML troop is out deploying on a special tasking, to do something other than PMAL, right? Training to become a drone operator, and then integrating these emerging combat technologies downrange with frontline combat units. Well, Senior Airman Derrick found a way, right? He changed the norm. He challenged the norm. I recently had the pleasure of meeting the Task Force 99 team, and they told me Michael's impact was immediate. It probably will not surprise any of you that know Michael, that on his very first day in the task force, he walked up to the commander, mind you, a full-bird colonel, who directly reports to Lieutenant General France in the CENTCOM, introduced himself and immediately began offering his ideas on how they could better execute their mission. He was confident, he was bold, and he was motivated. And for some, that's a dangerous combination, but for Michael, this is what made him great. He was hungry to serve, and he was committed to being the absolute best airman he could be. It is easy, especially as a young airman, to follow the crowd or wait for someone else to step up. Michael didn't wait. He was unafraid to push the boundaries of what could be achieved. And Senior Airman Derrick was well known in the PMAL career field. He was a mentor in his work center, an innovator finding solutions to tough equipment fixes, a trusted friend, and as we found out, even a published rap artist. Most of all, though, he was our wingman. It is during tragedies like this that we're reminded of how fragile life is and how deeply we rely on the person to our left and to our right. So my challenge to you today, it's important to grieve, but don't let this just be a day of grief. Let it be a catalyst. Honor Michael by continuing to share his stories and keep his spirit of innovation, continuous improvement, and adventure alive in us and this unit. Be a little more bold in your duties. Face the obstacles in your life completely unafraid. Find your motivation when the mission gets tough. And please, take care of one another. Be the wingman that Michael was to so many of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Arsh. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to invite Staff Sergeant Anna Wan to come forward for the reading of a poem of an unknown author in a book quote by Amor Towles that represented the life of Senior Airman Derrick.
The poem is called Young Life Cut Short. Do not judge a song by its duration, nor by the number of its notes. Judge it by the richness of its contents. Sometimes those unfinished are among the most poignant. Do not judge a song by its duration, nor by the number of its notes. Judge it by the way it touches and lifts the soul. Sometimes those unfinished are among the most beautiful. And when something has enriched your life, and when its melody lingers in your heart, is it unfinished or is it endless? The book quote is from A Gentleman in Moscow. By dying young, a man stays young forever in people's memories. If he burns brightly before he dies, his light shines for all time.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant Wan. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the chaplain to say a few words.
Good afternoon. We gather today in this chapel, not for a worship service in the ordinary sense, or for a briefing or a tasking, but for something that asks more of us than duty ever could. Remembrance. Today we remember Senior Airman Michael Derrick. Derrick, one of us. An airman, a teammate, a brother. And yet we remember him with heavy hearts. Several weeks ago at Shaw Air Force Base, Derrick's life was taken by the reckless choices of a drunk driver. 24 years. That's all he was given. 24 years to learn, to grow, to serve, to dream, and to leave his mark on the people around him. A death like this does not sit easily with us. When a life is taken suddenly by another person's reckless choice, it does more than saddens us, it disorients us. And in a sense, we know that this is not how it's supposed to go. This is not how it's supposed to be. A young man on a TDY in a deployment should come home. I can't stand here and say that this makes sense, because it doesn't. So if you are angry, I get it. If you feel uneasy or anxious, it's honest. Or even if you don't feel anything, you're not alone. But here's what I've come to see, as I've seen grief so many times over so many years, that a grief this heavy only comes from one place, and that's a deep connection. We feel this much because he mattered this much. 24 years feels far too short. But we gather not to be defined by how he passed, but as we've heard, how he lived. What he did in those 24 years, it was not wasted. Being born in Moscow, moving to the States, living in Georgia with his family when he was 8 years old, in that short life, crossing continents, learning a new language, a new culture, mastering a demanding trade, and putting on the uniform of the nation that welcomed him. He was brilliant, ambitious, kind, and let's be honest, he was pretty hilarious. He had a caring heart and a restless mind, and he refused to leave a broken thing broken. When he saw places for improvement, he spoke up. Those who knew him described that he would stop what he was doing to help you. Someone honest enough to name a problem when he saw it, and bold enough to volunteer for the opportunities, and ambitious enough to chase them. But not for recognition, but that his team could be better. We've only had a short time with him. He arrived last September, but since that time, it was easy to see why he has such a respect within the female community, why he was so well known. He sought out the hard work. We heard about the tasking that he had with Task Force 99, opportunities others could not even get into. It was so competitive. He took ownership, invested in programs, and he left everything better than when he found them. Now, most people on this space do not set foot on the PML lab. I'll be honest, before being assigned to MXG, I didn't know much about what they did in PML or in K3 where he was. Like, allegedly it was more than torque wrenches, but I didn't really know that. But it was electronics. It's all the unseen things that our mission quietly depends on. They understand something that the rest of us forget. That when left alone, like everything drifts. Measurements drifts, instruments drifts. Small errors end up compounding. And it could cost us the mission, or it could be catastrophic. The technicians in the lab bring each instrument back to a standard. They calibrate it, they restore the confidence. They make certain that the rest of us can trust what we hold in our hands. And he understood that kind of work. But more than that, Derrick lived that kind of life. He challenged the assumptions. All those assumptions we see and they just don't make sense, he actually called it out. He spoke plainly. And though he was only with us for 9 months, he quietly calibrated the people around him. And now, in his absence, many of us are realizing how much steadier we were because of his presence. Something precious has been taken from us. A friend, a teammate, an airman with enormous potential. Every life is sacred, and every life entrusted to us is a gift. Some gifts are given to us for decades, and others for only a season. Derrick was entrusted to this base for a season. And what a season it was. He showed us some of the finest qualities of an airman. Intelligence without arrogance, ambitious without selfishness, bold without being careless, and kind without seeking attention. And that wonderful gift of humor that could completely transform the culture of a workplace. If we leave this place determined to carry even a fraction of these qualities forward, his influence will not end here. It will continue in the programs we improve, the airmen we mentor, and all the friendships we invest in. And the daily decision to be the kind of teammate that he was for so many of us. A loss like this throws our bearings off. For a while, nothing reads the way that it should. And that's what grief does. It's real. It's painful. It's disorientating. But Derrick, of all people, would know the way back. When your readings drift, you return to the standard that holds. You begin again. Pima lives by that simple conviction. Somewhere there is a true standard. One that does not drift, and that everything worth trusting can be measured against. Derrick lived that kind of life. He held the line straight. And so we will live in the wake of that standard. We will serve in the wake of that reality and the standard he set and the work and base he made better. To Derrick's family, I know you are not in this room with us, but I hope these words reach you. Thank you for sharing him with us. And thank you for the years you poured into him. Thank you for raising a young man whose impact far outran the time he was given. We mourn with you, and we honor him with you. We are grateful for him, and we are also grateful for you. We know that Senior Airman Michael Derrick mattered, and he matters still. We wish we had been given more time, but we are grateful and thankful for the time we had with him and the impact he leaves with us and the legacy we get to carry on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaplain Joynes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're able, please stand for the last roll call by Master Sergeant Worthington. The Plano taps and remain standing for the benediction.
Senior Master Sergeant Elliott.
Here, sir.
Technical Sergeant Steinberg.
Here, sir.
Staff Sergeant Benson.
Here, sir.
Staff Sergeant Wynn.
Here, sir.
Senior Airman LeBlanc.
Here, sir.
Senior Airman Derrick. Senior Airman Michael Derrick. Senior Airman Michael James Derrick.
Go now in peace. Be grateful for Derrick's life. Volunteer for the opportunity. Fix the problems everyone else walks past. Speak up when something needs to be changed. Laugh a little louder. Help a little quicker. And leave every person, every program, every place better than the way you found it. And in doing so, his story continues in our story. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's memorial service. You are welcome to join us in the fellowship hall for food and refreshments. Please silently proceed through the outside aisles and exit through the back of the sanctuary. Thank you for attending.